Hello, Narf from Narf Sounds here. Today I'll be talking about the drum track and how to import your own drum track pattern into the Kronos and play along to that pattern using Program Mode or Combi Mode. What I've got is a MIDI file that I downloaded from the internet, and it's Happy by Pharrell. I've just downloaded that, Googled Happy MIDI free download, and got that. And it's a pretty small file. It's just 83 kilobytes. And what I'm going to do is load that into Sequencer. So there's my Happy MIDI file, and that's already selected. I can go to the Load tab or the Utility tab and just press Load. So what happens when you load a MIDI file is it gets loaded into Sequencer mode. So that's all I do. Load. And when I go to Sequencer, it's been populated by the MIDI information. If I press play, yeah, sounds great. So that sounds like that because of the it's a general MIDI file, and I haven't done anything to Sequencer mode to prepare it to play back the general MIDI file. That's why the mapping is all wrong, and it sounded like that. But that doesn't matter. Most of the time, they put the drum track in channel 10. So if I solo track 10, I'll hear the drums on its own. But of course, it's not drums. It's going to be piano because that's what's right there. Okay, sounds amazing. Those are the drums, but it's not the drum sounds. So what I'm going to do now is change the instrument to drums. So all I need to do is go to drums and choose maybe Funk Kit. And now I'm going to play that back. Again, I'm just going to solo track 10. Okay, that sounded wrong, right? Because the mapping is still all wrong. What I noticed as well is because it's a MIDI file with program change commands, I'm going to have to remove that program change. So whenever I rewind to the beginning of the track, it restores all the programs again to whatever the MIDI file dictates, in which case it becomes piano again in spite of me changing that to drums. So what I'm going to have to do is go to track edit and select MIDI track 10. Okay, that's the percussion. And then track edit, you go to MIDI event edit and you look for program change. Okay, program change is what we want. And you go OK. And it's going to show you that on the first measure, there is a program change command that gets sent out. And we're going to get rid of that. So I'm going to just select anywhere here. See, that's a program change command, that red trumpet. And I'm going to cut that. And so that's gone now. And if I change this track 10 to drums, Funk Kit is what I've chosen, it'll remain as drums even if I rewind it to the beginning. Okay, now it sounds like drums, and it didn't change when I pressed the locate button on the sequencer, but the mapping is still all wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to transpose the notes to map correctly. And the standard MIDI drums versus Kronos drum mapping is usually an octave apart. So I have to transpose this track by 12 and change all the notes and increase it by 12 semitones. And to do that, I go to track edit And I'm going to go here. And I will select Shift Erase Note here, Shift, because I'm going to shift all the notes in this track from the beginning of the song to the end of the song. Actually, you don't have to go to the end of the song because I'm just going to extract a measure out of this one. I'm just going to take one measure, but I'm going to do it to everything anyway. And I will shift everything by 12, shift note by 12. And we need to replace those notes. Not erase, replace. Okay, so now I've done that. If I solo track 10, okay, so that sounds right to me now. And all I need to do is select one measure out of this because it's just a drum loop, right? There's no distinct fills in spite of the after the intro. It's just a drum loop throughout. So that's the drum pattern that I'll be copying. It's just one measure, and I'll create a drum pattern based on that. Right, so what I'm going to do now is go to Pattern RPPR and make sure that this is MIDI track 10, because that's the MIDI track from which I'll be extracting the pattern from. And I've selected user pattern 0. And I'll go to pattern edit, and I just want to extract one measure. So I'll go to pattern parameter and make sure that it's set to 1, because that's the length of the pattern that I want. So there it is, length is 1. So if you want to create a pattern that's 4 measures long, change that to 4. Or if you want to create a pattern that's 8 or 16, then change it accordingly. But in this case, it's just one measure that loops itself. Okay, so I've done that. And then what I'm going to do is extract the pattern from the MIDI file. Now, if we listen to the song again, the actual repeating pattern starts on measure 3. Have a look at this and notice that the normal pattern starts on measure 3. So I'm just going to actually just copy measure 3 and go back to Pattern RPPR and get from MIDI track. So we are in song 0, that's where we loaded the song. MIDI track 10, that's the MIDI track from which I'll be extracting the pattern. And I want to extract it from measure 3. And since I've already set the pattern parameter to 1, it'll only take measure 3. If I set the pattern from 1 to 8, it'll take 8 measures starting from measure 3. So that's how you set that up. So I'll go OK. And when I play back pattern 0, okay, so that's the drum pattern that I want to convert into my own user pattern. So now that I've extracted that one, I want to make sure that it's named correctly. So I'll just go to pattern name and user pattern 0. I don't want to call my new drum track pattern 00. I want to call it Happy by Pharrell. So clear. And I type in Happy. Pharrell. And drums. Or Happy Pharrell beat. I'll call it that. And there you go, Happy Pharrell beat. And lastly, I will convert to drum track pattern. Now, when you convert a MIDI file into a drum track pattern, whether it's a MIDI file that you recorded yourself, a sequencer pattern that you recorded yourself, once you convert that into a drum pattern, it no longer resides in RAM. It becomes part of the PCG. So You don't have to keep loading this once you've done this. So convert to drum track pattern. And this is the destination pattern. So these are all your user patterns. And I have purchased patterns from the Korg store. So this is the electro house patterns. And then I also got the one of the KRS-One. So these have been populated already. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to locate an unused pattern. So before recording this, I've done it before, just to make sure that everything's right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overwrite it to this one. But normally you want to put it in an unused pattern. But since I don't want to double up, I'm going to erase this one. I'm going to overwrite Happy Pharrell drums in here. And whatever I'm about to write now will overwrite the one that I did previously. So I just want to take the notes, note only. And I won't take all patterns available in song 1, in song 0, because I haven't done anything else yet. But if you do have several patterns here, you probably just want to convert one pattern at a time. So, okay. And there you go. That's all good. So if I go to program mode, I'm going to go to common and drum track. And this is the preset pattern. I'll turn on the drum track. Okay. And I'm going to change that to the one that I just created. The one that I just created is going to be in user. And we'll just locate that. There it is, Happy Pharrell beat. And when I turn on drum track, it should sound correct. Not quite, because it's the wrong drum kit. So I'm just going to change this into a funk kit. And of course the tempo is all wrong as well. So just go back to my sequence and find out what the tempo should be. So it's 160 beats per minute. So go back to the program and change that to 160. And that should be right now. And there you have it. That's how you create your own drum pattern based on a MIDI file that you've imported. Or, of course, you can make your own by recording into the sequencer and doing pretty much the same thing. So if you like that video, please go ahead and just subscribe to my YouTube channel, Narf Sounds. Also, please visit my website, narfsounds.com. If you do cover songs and play live, you might want to check out the sound packs available there. And of course, if you own a Korg Kronos, do join us in the Kronos Enthusiast Workshops group on Facebook. There's a lot of neat stuff as far as tutorials and lots of discussions and lots of goodies for any Kronos owner. So thanks for watching.